Hey, good morning. First of all, let's share this to Twitter. I would love to say how's everyone doing, but it looks like nobody is watching yet, which makes sense. Alrighty. Coming up for the day, I'm going to be talking about reuniting families separated at the border because of the no tolerance policy. The impeachment of Rod Rosenstein. The Department of Justice is the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, and a group of 11 House conservatives are seeking to impeach him. And I'm also going to end the stream on a live show by talking about a favorite artist of mine, whose Instagram you can find down in the Chamber of Secrets. Good morning. Gonna share the link somewhere else because that'd be nice. Man. Boom. No, that is my friend's Instagram account. Also important. Okay, gotta get the link again. Go. Okay, share the link everywhere it needs to go. I'm 3 minutes in because it doesn't give me the link to share this before I start, which is dumb, YouTube. You used to let me do that. You used to let me share the link to live streams before it started, and I miss that. So today is July 26th, 2018, which is also the deadline for reuniting families separated at the border. Which, good, they should have never been separated in the first place. A federal judge ruled about a month ago that children under 5 need to be separated within 2 weeks. That was 2 weeks ago. And children over the age of 5 who were separated from their families have to be returned by today, which was 30 days from the ruling. Well, today is the deadline to reunite all the families that have been separated by the government. And that's having not great results. Over 2,000 kids were taken. Authorities have identified 2,551 children 5 and older who should be covered by the order to be reunited with their parents by today because of the court-imposed deadline. And we're not expecting that to actually go through. Because, well, for one reason, hundreds of parents could have already been deported without their children. And also, the government is making families, the adults, pay for their children's passage back to wherever the adults are. Some kids were shipped to New York. A few kids were shipped to Pennsylvania. Some are in my city right now because an organization that works as a children's outpatient home said, we can take these kids. We want to take care of them. But Pennsylvania is far from Texas, and the government paid for them to get here, but not for them to be reunited with their families. So families who are probably already impoverished aren't actually being able to come up with the money to pay for the airplane fare to get their children back, which is kind of basically saying that they don't have the money to pay a ransom because it's a ransom. The government is currently saying that they will totally meet the deadline because they are saying by 6 p.m. today, all eligible families will be reunited that were separated. But according to CNN, 914 parents, not children, so these could be parents with multiple kids who are lost in the system, they won't be reunited with their children. And in some cases, they're saying it's because the parents can't be found or have serious criminal records, or they've already been deported without their children. And some still haven't been able to find their children in this system. And over 1,000 families have already been reunited by the government that, of course, originally separated them. And that's what officials have said at a status hearing that was on Tuesday, the 24th. The judge at that hearing said the Trump administration's zero tolerance policy, which led to most of the such separations, have been deeply troubling. And it's the reality of a policy that was in place that resulted in a large number of families being separated without forethought as to reunification and keeping track of people. And that's the fallout we're seeing. Because the reason that we're having so much trouble reunifying these families and getting kids back with their parents is that we just didn't keep good records while we were separating them. And that's awful because it also implies that we did this without thinking of what it would result, because having a zero tolerance policy does mean, we can't have children be with the parents that we're separating them from. And that's awful. But to do it without keeping records or without a plan on how to reunify them means that they weren't really ever thinking of what would happen to these kids. And they weren't thinking of how to reunite them because it's very possible that they were never planning to. So over 1,000 families have been reunited so far, and that was as reported on Tuesday at a status hearing. There are 463 parents who the government believes are no longer in the United States and were likely deported without their children. But we don't know if all of them have been deported without their children, because there are some who are just unaccounted for who may have been removed without their child, and some who we just can't find, possibly. They're saying they could have been removed and deported, or it could have been a voluntary departure that is unrelated to separation, but there are several language barriers. There are a lot of indigenous languages that people are speaking and having trouble with the language barrier, who maybe can't communicate that they have a child in this deportation hearing, and that they have a child that they're separated from, and are thinking that by signing a paper to be voluntarily deported, that they'll get them back, and they haven't been. They're saying 191 parents won't be reunified with their children because they have criminal records or declined to be reunified. I'm not sure what it means to be declined to be reunified, and I don't know what happens to these children in the result of that. And 217 parents have been released from federal custody, some who are given ankle monitors as they await for their immigration hearing proceedings. Immigration hearings, of course, are the jurisdiction not of the judicial system, but by the executive branch under the Department of Justice. And there is certainly a backlog, even more so now that there is a zero tolerance policy. And there are 260 parents whose cases require further investigation. That is happening because it includes some people who the government can't locate, or some who aren't certain they are the parents of separated children, or also some children were released to a different family member or friend. So as of Tuesday, 1,012 parents were reunified with their children in the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody. And today was the deadline. And people have just been continuing to arrive, and there are still over 900 families who don't know where their kids are, or who know where they are and are charged $8 a minute to speak to them on the phone, which is a ridiculous charge for anything. All minutes should be unlimited, but that's they're being charged to speak to their children. They're being charged for airfare to get their kids flown back to them after they were taken, and it's just terrible. It is. And we need to keep talking about it because, not only is today the deadline, but with over 900 children still not with their families, that's a tragedy. That is a tragedy that we designed and made in a system that wasn't meant to benefit anyone. Separating children from their families when it doesn't seem like the families are of any threat to the child is horrific, and we did that. Anyways, I don't like sharing stories without also talking about how we can help them. So if you go to ireallyDoCare.com, which is in the Chamber of Secrets, there's a link there. ireallyDoCare.com. It's a link, and it takes you to a site where you can donate to 14 groups helping immigrants, including the kids separated at the border. It helps El Otro Lado, which serves indigenous deportees, migrants, and refugees in Tijuana and Los Angeles. The Florence Project, which provides legal and social services to detained immigrants in Arizona. Neta, which is a Latinx-run progressive media platform telling the stories of what's happening at the border. Innovation Law Lab, which is working in immigrant detention centers and hostile judicial districts, keeping a definitive list of kids being held. Feruza del Valle, organizing workers and immigrant communities in the Rio Grande Valley. The Young Center for Immigrants' Children's Rights, which is promoting the best interests of unaccompanied immigrant children. We Belong Together, which is an organization which is just Women for Common Sense Immigration Policies, that's what they're calling. United We Dream, which is the largest immigrant youth-led network in the country. The Women's Refugee Commission, which is advocating for the rights and protection of women, children, and youth fleeing violence and persecution. The ACLU, which is fighting attacks through the legal system. I'm just reading what they have on the website. The Kids in Need of Defense, which is also abbreviated as KIND, which is protecting unaccompanied children who enter the U.S. immigration system alone to ensure that no child appears in court without an attorney. Which, by the way, I don't know if you guys know this, but you know how if you're in a criminal proceedings, you have a right to a lawyer, and if you can't afford one, one will be provided to you? That does not count. They do not do that for immigration proceedings. And literal babies have gone to court for deportation proceedings and have been asked questions about where they should be deported to and if they waive their rights to stay in the country. And the babies might not even speak English, or also might not know how to speak because they're babies. They don't know what's going on, and they shouldn't be in these proceedings. So making sure that unaccompanied children who enter the U.S. immigration system alone, ensuring that that nobody appears in court without an attorney is vital, because of course having an adult that could speak on your behalf when you're a child, particularly one that knows the immigration system, which is overly complicated, helps everyone, because it's just awful human rights abuse to expect a 1-year-old to know what's going on in a court proceeding. It also will donate to the Asylum Seeker Advocacy Project, which provides asylum seekers with legal aid and community support across the country. Human Rights First, which helps refugees obtain asylum in the U.S., and the Union del Pueblo Entero, founded by Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, a community union that works in the Rio Grande Valley from the grassroots up. So if you go to idoreallycare.com, you can, that takes you to a page that you can donate to all of those organizations, and it will divide the money that you donate evenly between all 14 of them, which is awesome. Also today, 11 House Republicans are seeking the impeachment of Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, the Justice Department official who oversees Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation and the investigation into how our 2016 election was compromised. The move came last night after months of criticism aimed at the department and the Russia investigation in particular from Donald Trump and Republican allies in Congress. It has often been referred to as a witch hunt, which has led to multiple guilty pleas and indictments. So, weird to call it a witch hunt, because a witch hunt is just chasing around young women that you don't like and murdering them? I should read more about witch hunts. The call for impeachment and the resolution that was passed to impeachment doesn't trigger a vote, and not enough people have signed on to the effort and are unlikely to back it, so we probably won't get impeached. But it's definitely worth calling your representative if you are a U.S. citizen and telling them that you don't want them to be impeached, because impeaching someone who is charged with investigating and protecting our elections is important. I mean, the department... The articles of impeachment are charging Rosenstein with high crimes and misdemeanors for failing to produce information to the committees about the investigation. The department has already provided our representatives in Congress with over 800,000 documents and it's just 800,000 documents. It's not like they read all of them or listened to all of them or did whatever you need to do with all of them. And it's unusual for lawmakers and members of Congress to demand documents for part of an ongoing investigation. This normally happens after the fact so that nothing gets leaked and the investigation can continue as normal. It's also unusual to comment on investigations that are still ongoing, because if an investigation is still ongoing, that means that it's not finished investigating. Now, if it had proceeded to trial, that's one thing. But it's interfering with the criminal investigation to be demanding these now, in my opinion. It's not technically interfering with the investigation, but it is weird to be demanding it. Look, the articles of impeachment are weird, and it's very odd that they're seeking to impeach the Deputy Attorney General, because most people probably don't know who the Deputy Attorney General is. Some people might not even know that's a position people can have in the government. The Justice Department has no comment on the articles of impeachment at this time, but Rosenstein is overseeing the Russia investigation since last year after Jeff Sessions recused himself. And based on the results of the investigation so far, which once again is still ongoing, things seem to be going well, and it seems like this impeachment is just an attempt to undermine the investigation itself. I mean, so far the special counsel has charged 32 people and 3 companies, including 4 Trump campaign advisors and 12 Russian intelligence officers. And there have already been guilty pleas, so it's very, very unusual for this to happen. This live stream is getting a little long, so let's move on. Please, if you want to help with that, just once again, call your representative. I don't have a link for that. You can figure out who your representative is. Just Google it. Finally, the last thing I want to share is this Instagram I have been following called Soft Warm Glow. She is an artist. I've actually known her since high school. She's really cool. And she has been doing these figure drawings called the Summer Body Series. And it's just really interesting and beautiful. And there is slight nudity, but not of anything too private and things that everybody has. And it's just someone with fat rolls who is beautiful. And there's these stark and beautiful colors in it. And it's very dynamic and fluid. And it's great because all bodies are good bodies. And I like the Summer Body series. And it's very interesting to show how things have been constructed online and also what you can do with that to pull from it. Anyways, they're a very talented artist. Everyone should go check them out. And as nobody has been watching this all day, I'm going to go now. If you end up watching this later, please support me on Patreon or tweet this out. Let me know that you saw it, because that'd be cool. And hey, consider subscribing so you can be around for my next one. Bye.